Howdy, howdy, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Admin. Welcome to another Datapack showcase video. This one is another update for the Moar Swords Datapack. This update adds 5 new swords to the pack, those being the Vampire Sword, the Light Sword, the Breadsword, Lapis Sword, and Stick Sword. And these have actually been available for my patron supporters for the past 2 or 3 weeks. So if early releases of Datapacks as well as some exclusive content interest you, there is an iCard in the top right. Click that to learn more. And because all of the recipes can be found on the download website, I will not be going over them in this video. Let's just jump into a showcase of the functionality of these swords, starting with the Breadsword. So the Breadsword is a pretty cool little sword. You can attack with it. It does 3 damage, so very weak, but if you right click, you can take a little bite of the actual bread and restore some of your hunger. It's only half of a haunch, but you can see the durability goes down when you do that. You can do that up to, I don't know, like 10 times, something like that. Or 25 times by the look of it. So I might change that at some point, but essentially this is just restoring some of your saturation and in return taking some durability from the item. This you could put mending on, and you could even put unbreaking on it, and you could eat it more times. So trying that again with an Unbreaking 3 Breadsword, you can see currently it has 24 durability. It says that at the bottom there. But if I right click, you'll see that time I didn't use any durability, and same with those times. And so there's a 1/4 chance that I'm actually going to use durability. So spam right clicking only sometimes uses durability. So this is a pretty interesting item. It's sort of a food item that is different than a regular food item. So let's move on. Okay, so next on the list is the Lapis Sword, and I think this one's pretty cool. If we actually grab the item from here, you'll see it is just a regular sword. But, as the description of it says, it will be enchanted randomly when you craft it. So, looks like we are going to have to do a bit of crafting after all. Okay, so if we have our sword crafter over here, you can see when we craft this item, like so, we will now get it. It got shot out like it normally would, but it is enchanted randomly. So this time we got Fire Aspect 2, Unbreaking 3, but we could do this again with another one. You can see this time we got Looting 3, Unbreaking 2. We could even do a whole ton of them at once, and that might have been kind of loud, but now we have 32 of the Lapis Swords. So let's just check out some of the enchantments. We got Unbreaking 3, Smite. We can get Mending, so you can see this one has Mending on it. So treasure enchantments are allowed. Smite, Mending, blah blah blah. Most of the enchantments are not going to be all that good, but sometimes you get lucky and you get a level 30 enchant. This is set up to enchant between level 15 and 30 randomly. So yeah, you can get some good ones, some pretty bad ones as well. But there is a catch. Now, of course, these swords would be blatantly overpowered early game if you could combine the enchantments off of them with each other or move them to a different sword. And for that reason, I made it so that you're not able to repair the item or enchant it further or combine enchants. So you can see in creative mode, this costs 20,000 levels, but if I'm in survival, it's going to just say too expensive. Because it is too expensive for you to do anything. So you could not add a book, you couldn't combine them, you could not transfer the enchantments to other swords. And you can also not repair them. So yeah, I like this sword a lot. I think it's kind of cool. It's a bit of an interesting dynamic where it's a gamble whether or not you actually get something good. But it is fairly cheap early on. And it's about the same strength as an iron sword. But of course, lapis is generally going to be found before you find diamonds. And so probably going to be better than a diamond sword, especially better than a diamond sword before enchantments, most likely. So, moving on. The next sword on the list is the Light Sword, and this is pretty much the inverse of the Darkness Sword from the previous video. If you have yet to check out any of the other videos in this series, there is an iCard in the top right to a playlist with all like 9 or 10 or however many videos I have on the pack. And you might as well subscribe while you're at it, because I mean, I make cool updates and stuff like this all the time, so subscribe. Oh boy, sorry, I'm starting to feel sick from all the self-plugging. Anyway, yeah, so this sword, if I summon like a husk or something, you'll see it will deal 1 damage on our first hit, but then it's going to take the light value that we're in. Currently, because it is daytime and we are completely outside, it's going to deal 9 damage. 9 is the max that this weapon can do. 9's pretty high, because if you look at like a netherite sword, the max that can do is 8. So in full brightness, the light sword is stronger than a netherite sword. However, it does have a downside. The darker the location that you're in, the less damage it will do, and eventually it could actually end up doing 1 damage as the minimum. So it can never do 0, but it can absolutely do 1 at the minimum, which is pretty terrible. But you can like one-hit kill cows and chickens and all sorts of those mobs, but suppose we were to like stand under this tree here. This is a little bit darker than where we currently are, or were. So now it does 6 damage because we have lost like 3 levels of light by the look of it. So here it would do 9 damage, but then we stand under some leaves and now it does 8 damage, and then 7 damage, and then finally 6 damage. And then it would keep going down the darker the location. So yeah, this sword can be slightly better than a netherite sword in a lot of situations, especially if you're like outdoors PvPing, it would be slightly better. But in a lot of situations, in like standard play, it could be worse. Like in the nether, it's not actually going to do anything unless you're next to fire or lava or whatever. So yeah, that's the light sword. Let's move on to, let's go to the stick sword. The stick sword is crafted with sticks, and it's kind of just a practice sword. You can swing it quite quickly, but it does 2 damage. So you can practice. Oh yeah, I'm so good at hitting mobs. Yeah, woohoo! I mean, I'm not actually good at hitting mobs, but I can practice and maybe get better at it. So because it does so little damage, you get to practice, and yeah, that's about all that this one does. It's not really useful for anything. You're not actually going to use this in your gameplay, but maybe you want to PvP with your friends, and instead of like doing a punch fight, you want to do a stick sword fight, stuff like that. I'll leave it to you guys to figure out how you want to use the sword. I probably imagine it's not going to get used much, but, I mean, it's kind of cool. I don't know. And finally, we have the vampire sword, and this one is quite cool. It will cause bleeding and also has health steal to it, but there is a downside that you have to be concerned about as well. So if we head down into a cave, you can see that this husk here is attacking me. I'm taking some damage, and I have 5 damage vampire sword, and when I attack with it, you'll see a couple things happen. So first of all, the husk is now bleeding. So I hit it and it will take a little bit of bleeding damage. That is our standard bleed effect, and so at the start of it, it will take faster damage, but then as the bleed continues, it will take slower and slower damage. You can see that it will slow down the damage rate. The second effect is that I have a little bit of health regenerated. Specifically, 1 single heart gets healed every time I hit with this. It is a slow heal, meaning if I were to just like be spam clicking this guy, I'm not going to be healing a ton of damage. It's not like I instantly get a heart, it has to regenerate over time. But that extra heart of regeneration is pretty valuable. So, decent sword for sure. You can kill things pretty fast with it, and it works on players as well. You can deal a good amount of damage. But as I said earlier, there is a downside to this sword, so let's head to the surface to see that. Alright, so the downside is that if we use this outdoors during the day, you get set on fire, and you also take some damage. So you'll take 3 hearts of damage if you have no armor. It is, every level of protection will save you from it with I believe, minimum damage of 1 heart, but you also get set on fire, and that's if, there we go, I just died by my own sword. Anyway, that is only if you're in light level 12 or higher. So suppose we were to like run over to this cliff over here, we could probably get away with using the sword right here just fine. Yeah, you can see this is working fine, right? But as soon as I get a little too close to the edge, still good, still good. Yeah, we're still good. But probably here, yep, I got hit. So, essentially, this is kind of like the dark sword, except it has a much worse downside than normal. For the darkness sword, if you were to try to use it outside, it would still deal damage. It would just be 1 heart, but it would also just not hurt you or anything. This one, if you're not paying attention, you could absolutely kill yourself using this sword. But the upside is that, of course, it is quite a powerful sword. You're dealing a base 5 damage, so same as a stone sword, but then the bleeding effect on top of that, and also the heal effect for you, all 3 of those stacked, you are not the right showcase. All three of those stacked will lead to a pretty powerful sword. Yeah, and if you're wondering, I do all of my showcases in the same world, and they're kind of just scattered about. So, yeah, that's how we ran into that one. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it. And if you want to make sure not to miss out on future content coming to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I've been trying to post about one video a week. I am fairly busy with work and other stuff like that. But I have been doing that fairly successfully. 1 or so new Datapack updates per week. So, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys all in the very next video. So, thank you so much for watching.